Dan Wolken, USA Today. Coco, when you're in a match like that and you fall behind in the third set right away, how are you calculating in your mind, how much risk you need to start taking on to change the flow of how things are going?
Yeah, it was something I was actually thinking about a lot. She's a player that I feel like she, banks on your mistakes. And, also you can't really hit the ball too short or she's going to be aggressive as well. So it's really difficult finding that balance. I did lose that second set off of a lot of errors, to be honest. So I was trying to tell myself just to be ready to play an extra ball because she's that player, when you think you win the point, it's not over. And, so I was telling myself to be ready for another ball to come back.
Matt.
Coco, Matt Futterman from the New York Times. You've played in all the big courts and all the slams. How would you compare them, and what is it, other than the size, that makes this one different, especially for you?
Definitely the crowd. I mean, they're, being an American playing here, they're backing you. So yeah, they backed me today a lot. Had some chants going on in the stadium, which was really nice. And yeah, definitely the crowd. I mean, day and night, they're still really energetic. Obviously, the night sessions are, I think, even more electric, but the crowd doesn't really compare to any of the other slams.
Willie
Weinbaum from ESPN. Obviously, they're playing tonight, so we're not going to get another opportunity to ask you about your next opponent. Mm-hmm. Starting with Iga, what are your thoughts on what you've learned from facing her as many times as you have and on winning the last one?
Yeah, I mean, she's a tough opponent, and I think, especially in the Grand Slams, I think she, hits an extra gear. What I've learned, I mean, just staying in there. I mean, I got to play every point to the maximum potential and taking my chances the last match. I mean, it was a physical match, so I know that if I were to play her, it's going to be a physical match. So, yeah, I'm just going to be ready to fight mentally and physically. And then with Jelena, I think, she's a striker, ball striker. So I lost her an Australian Open this year. And, she's hot or cold, to be honest. So same thing, honestly, just staying in the match. And, I might get some more free points from her, more so than Ego. Maybe not. Maybe she'll hit so many winners. So really, she's a tough opponent both of them are tough opponents to be ready to face.
Okay. David.
It sounded like Brad was trying to tell you to play longer points, and you went out there and played shorter points, and it seemed to really work for you in the third set. How much of what he was telling you in that match were you taking in, and how much were you trying to sort of problem solve for yourself out there?
Yeah, I think, it's based off the feeling in the match and, the longer points. I definitely agree that I playing longer points is to my advantage, but I felt in that moment playing Caroline and watching her play so many years that's what she feeds off of is the longer points and, feeding off of you making errors. So I was trying, and I think he was really trying to tell me to go for less, but also at the same time, I watched her play so many years, and I didn't want to play into that game where I was, not pushing, but, not playing the game that I like to play. So it was just finding the balance between playing the longer points. I really think he wanted me to take less risk. There was even a couple times in that first set on her service game where I made some not silly errors, but bad errors. And I wasn't really trying to end the point. I was just trying to be aggressive. So I think for me, it was just finding the balance of playing the longer points, but being the aggressor. I knew playing against her, you have to be the aggressor. She can, and I wasn't taking her having kids. I told my coaches after the match, I said she's definitely like top 5 fittest people on tour after today, and she was that before for sure.
If I could follow up about Caroline.
David, one question. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Coco, Darcy Maid from ESPN.com. Ahead of the City Open in late July, you said you were in a rebuilding period. You compared what you were doing to building a house. Now, with the summer you've had, the titles you've gotten, your run here, the win today, what do you think about the building process? Where would you say you're at this point?
Still building. I mean, today there's things that I think I could do better on the serve, do better. I mean, the return games I did pretty well, but I think I could have handled my service games a lot better. And, still picking the right shots. I think, in that second set, I had a lot of short balls and just errors, and I think I need to go for bigger targets. But, literally told myself before the match to try not to bait into that, because sometimes when you're playing an opponent that can get to a lot of balls, you bait into the going for more and more. And that's what I did. I fell into that bait. In the second set, I was telling myself to just go for the bigger targets and make her have to play extraordinary shots. And that was the difference between the second and the first.
Chris?
Chris Otto with U.S. Open. You spoke about it briefly, but what impressed you the most about what Caroline was able to do, given that she was off for over 3 years, 2 children, age of 33?
I mean, she's incredibly fit. I mean, that's how she won a lot of her matches when she was, I don't even know if it's prime or not. I mean, I think she's playing great tennis. And it's kind of hard for me to speak on it to before, because I never played her, never practiced with her. And honestly, when I was watching her, I was a young person, so I don't think I understood the game as much as I do now. So, you know, I know she probably has the reputation back then for being, you know, kind of a counter puncher and playing back. And I think today she was doing a little bit of that, but I also think she was playing more aggressive. And I think she was hitting her forehand down the line really well. It caught me in some moments and probably not something I was expecting. So yeah, I think that the fitness that she has, you know, usually with most players, I know that I can outlast them. And today I was confident that I could against her, but it was definitely like, you know, I don't know. At the beginning, you're thinking, you know, she's coming back. Maybe she'll get tired. I didn't feel that at all. I think really I just started to raise my level, but I don't think the match was based off the fitness or of her getting tired, where some of my opponents, I think, hit a wall. But today I think I just played better. And I think she'll be, you know, in a top contender, probably a seed by the end of this year, to be honest, for our Australian Open.
Bill?
Bill Simmons, Inside Tennis. It's always interesting when a player takes on a new coaching team. In particular, could you talk about how Brad's affected your game, how he's worked on your forehand maybe, and has he told you any one of your favorite stories, such a storyteller? Has he told you one that you love?
Yeah, I think he's brought a lot to me. You know, the scouting, I think it's incredible. He knows basically every player, probably just from commentating, but and knows how to play them. And I think the scouting reports are, you know, quite accurate. And, you know, sometimes you have to change things up. Today I did have to change things up, but that's also the player. And also with Para, I think for me, he's been doing, you know, more of the day-to-day stuff. You know, Brad's not always able to be there with the ESPN and everything. So he's been helping me a lot just with the footwork and things like that and the decision-making. And I think they work together. You know, they're all 2 different generations. And I think that they're both a good mesh. You know, sometimes I was worried about being with the older person, to be honest, before I met Brad, but he's definitely, you know, he's older, but he still has the mind of like a 20-year-old, maybe even younger, 10-year-old kid sometimes. I mean, the guys like offer me Jolly Ranchers, like, I don't know if you guys knew this. I guess my favorite Brad story is he played pretty much every match with a Jolly Rancher in his mouth. So he's been giving me Jolly Ranchers like all the time, and I take them, but I don't eat them because I'm like, at this point, I cannot have Jolly Ranchers like every 5 minutes. So that's my favorite Brad story, just the Jolly Rancher thing. And also, like, he doesn't like even numbers. He only likes odd numbers. So whenever he says something, if you ask him what time it is, he's going to say like 1:53 or 1:59. He won't say 12 or something basic. So that's my favorite Brad story. He's just a really quirky man, and yeah, and he doesn't sleep. He wakes up at 3:30 every morning. He was doing this in DC. He woke up at 3:30 every morning. He goes for walks, and he also has been sending me like crazy playlists of like 60s and 70s bands, but I haven't kept up with it.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I could keep going, but I'm not, because I know people have other questions.
Courtney?
Brad caught a few strays there.
Yeah.
But
He's used to it.
yeah, probably. But with Ben winning earlier today, and obviously a good group of Americans through into this deep round, what does the wave of energy feel like right now? Francis is through. Jess is gonna play. Maddie, you got Peyton. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty nice.
It's really great. I mean, I was so happy. You know, obviously I know Tommy really well too, but I was really happy for Ben's win, especially, you know, they played each other in Australia, so it's nice to just see, you know, the competitiveness between, you know, the countrymen and us all doing well. And yeah, with Ben and Francis winning, guarantees a person in the semi. and with Jess and Maddie playing guarantees a person in the quarter. So it's just really exciting. Tennis for America, and I hope that the fans are excited or is happy with it. And after my match, Ben and Francis were in the cool down area or warm up, I don't know, area, and it was really just cool to see us all there. And obviously the conversation, they already started the trash talk. I'm indifferent who wins, but I did say that Francis was a little bit upset because I said Ben had the better outfit than him. Yeah, because Francis told me at French Open that he had something crazy planned for US Open. And I was like, you're wearing confetti. I said Carlos looked better. He's going to hate this. Love you, Francis.
We'll take two more. Craig, and batting cleanup is Andrew.
Coco, Craig Gabriel, 9 Australia, and take this the wrong way. I'm not trying to get you into trouble or anything like that, but Brad is also known as talking incessantly. Mm-hmm. During the match, did you tell him to zip it in no uncertain terms?
It wasn't really towards him. There has been a situation a couple times in the matches where Para and Brad will both talk at the same time. And so I will say, like, okay, stop talking because it jumbles my head. And sometimes when I go to my towel, it's a reset moment. I don't need to hear anything. I just need to reset and think about me. But the talking on the court, he doesn't really talk like that much about on the tennis. I mean, I know I can't really hear him on Ash, so sometimes I do say I can't hear you. It's hard to hear, so sometimes maybe you guys are hearing more than what I'm hearing. So sometimes I heard from off the camera, like my parents will say, yeah, he talks a lot. But to be honest, I can't really hear him that well. But yeah, I do think today I did say stop talking at one point because I was getting frustrated, and it wasn't really directed at him. It was just that I needed to reset on my towel. When I go to my towel, sometimes it's a reset and sometimes I just need to wipe my hands. And I think in that moment, I just didn't want to hear anything. I just needed to think about what I was doing. But yeah, off the court, he does talk, but I like it. And I think that, anytime I can get advice is great, and they understand what it is. Before I talked or before I went on the court or before we started this tournament, I'm like, yeah, I might say some things like stop talking. And I did it in Cincinnati, and they don't take any offense to it. They know that sometimes I just need to not hear anything. And then sometimes I'll ask them, I'll be like, what am I doing wrong? I don't know if the camera picks that up. Probably not. But I will sometimes say, what am I doing wrong? And that's when I want advice.
Andrew, good.
Yeah, Andrew Jones, ESPN and Skate. Coco, you was able to hit through Carol, and she complimented your forehand, especially in that third set, to be able to hit through a equally great defender. How does that make you feel even more confident? And 4-0 with Jimmy Butler. Your whole thoughts on that?
He was here too again. Oh, okay, I mean, the guy loves tennis. I mean, he was at some of the late night matches, and on the first, he was at Ben's match too. So I don't know how he's sleeping, but. Yeah, but Caroline, I mean, yeah, I knew that she's probably watched a lot of my matches and knows my tendencies. So I definitely was trying to be more aggressive on that wing and not letting her step in on it. And yeah, I think that it gives me a lot of confidence knowing I can hit through people. And, people consider me sometimes, someone who plays more passive. But I definitely think this tournament, I've been winning the matches off of being the aggressor. And today that showed that I can play aggressive. And I know that's probably when I play my best tennis, but it's obviously finding the balance. And I think especially in the first and even all the way through the second set until I got broken, I was finding that balance.